Some games you remember for their story, some games you remember for the soundtrack, and then there are games you remember because they felt alive. I recently got Backbreaker Vengeance running again, and I instantly remembered that feeling. Every run is different, every hit is different, and every near miss feels earned. It's not just a football game to me, it's a physics machine that prints out little unscripted stories. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I mean it in the best way. For me, this obsession started in 2008 with GTA 4. Back then, I didn't have a language for it. I didn't know engine names. I didn't know what procedural animation even meant. I just knew that Liberty City didn't behave like other games. People didn't just ragdoll and flop. They reacted. They stumbled, they braced, they tried to catch themselves. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say I spent hours doing things that had nothing to do with missions. I was basically stress testing the physics, like it was a playground. There's this moment I used to love. You jump out of a helicopter above a certain highway and you don't instantly die. You hit the ground with ridiculous momentum and you just keep going. It looks violent, it looks uncontrolled, but it looks really human. And then there was this hospital respawn routine I did like a ritual. Grab a car, drift sideways, slam it into a wall, sometimes with NPCs nearby or behind it. Younger me was absolutely a menace, but the real reason I kept doing it wasn't just chaos, it was curiosity. I wanted to see how the world would respond when I pushed it. So, what was I actually reacting to back then? A big part of it is something called Euphoria, or the Euphoria engine. Natural motion's animation technology that generates character motion dynamically, instead of relying purely on canned animations. Here's the simplest way I can explain it without going full nerd mode. A lot of older physics in games look like this. Force happens, character turns limp, and ragdoll takes over. It can be funny and it can be convincing sometimes, but it often looks like a puppet whose strings got cut. Euphoria aims for a different illusion. It's trying to make characters look like they have intent for a split second, like they're trying to stay upright, protect themselves, regain balance. That's why GTA 4's reactions felt so unique. Not perfect, not clean, but alive. And once you notice that, you can't unsee it. And then there's the famous GTA 4 swing set glitch, the car cannon. If you've never seen it, it's exactly what it sounds like. You drive into a specific swing set in Liberty City, and your car just gets launched like the game suddenly remembered it's a cartoon. The best way I've heard it described is the car basically gets caught in a weird collision situation with the string structure and the physics freak out. Like the game is trying to resolve two objects that are not supposed to do that and it overcorrects violently. It's one of those glitches that became legendary because it accidentally reveals how wild physics systems can get when they're pushed outside their comfort zone. And honestly, it's hilarious, because it's not scripted comedy, it's the simulation losing its mind. I'm telling you all of this because it explains why Backbreaker hits the way it does. GTA 4 was the moment I realized physics isn't just nice to have. Physics can be the actual fun. Backbreaker was developed by Natural Motion, and yes, it uses Euphoria. The original Backbreaker was a full football game, but Vengeance exists because one mode was so compelling it could stand on its own. Tackle Alley. And I know Vengeance has a few modes, one where you race other runners while avoiding defenders, and one where you flip the formula and play as the defender. But I'm focusing on classic Tackle Alley because this is the purest version of the idea. Here's the magic. No run is ever the same. Even if you take the same path, your speed is slightly different. A defender clips you differently, sometimes collides with someone else, and suddenly the entire moment changes. It's not random, it's a system creating variation. Backbreaker isn't about graceful recovery. Backbreaker is about impact. Once you get a hit, you're going down. But you're not going down like a limp doll. The body reacts to momentum. The landing changes depending on force and angle. It feels like a physical event, not an animation. Before I go deeper into why this game fascinates me, I should probably explain what this mode actually is. Because despite the football setting, this isn't really a traditional football experience. Tackle Alley is a score-based mode, where you start with the ball at one end of the field and your goal is simple: reach the end zone. But between you and that goal are waves of defenders, obstacles, scoring opportunities and constant decisions about risk versus safety. You have a sprint button to build momentum. You can jump, slide, spin or juke, and in Backbreaker Vengeance they added a dedicated barge button, which lets you absolutely smash into the lighter blue defenders. Each defender type asks for a different reaction. The blue defenders can be barged through. The yellow ones, if timed correctly, can be avoided by sliding underneath them. And the red ones, the heavy ones, need to be jumped over. Timing matters. And timing never feels exactly the same twice. But it's not just about surviving, it's about points. Scattered across the field are point zones. Running through them gives you extra score, but it also makes your run more dangerous. You're taking a longer path, giving defenders more time to catch up. Every reward adds pressure. And then there's showboating. Instead of running efficiently, you can taunt the defenders. Slow your movement, use exaggerated animations. There's even a super showboat that earns more points, but makes you significantly more vulnerable. Obstacles add another layer. Some can be jumped over for extra points, others can be barged through. But every action takes time, and time gives the defenders an opportunity to catch you. You can also juke or spin to avoid defenders. It gives fewer points, but it's faster. Sometimes the safer choice, sometimes the only choice. And the field itself isn't always safe. There are out of bounds zones you need to watch carefully. If you mistime a jump or juke too early, you can accidentally run into them or ruin your positioning for the next move. Which means the mode can become surprisingly strategic. One of my favorite details is how the defenders can still affect you when you're mid-air. You might think you're safe because you've already jumped, but a defender can still grab you, pull your body off balance, and completely change the way you land. I even had moments where I crossed the finish line, got to the touchdown zone, but still got hit before touching the ground. And it just looks incredible because it isn't a scripted sequence, it's the system reacting in real time. And because of all this is driven by dynamic physics, those decisions never play out the same way twice. Sometimes momentum saves you, sometimes defenders collide with each other, and sometimes you get absolutely destroyed. And that's where the physics really start to matter. That, right there. This is why I can play this for way too long. And then there's the other layer I love. When defenders crash into each other, you're not just avoiding a hit, you're creating chaos by barely surviving it. It's satisfying because it feels earned, and it's funny because it's unscripted. Then there's my favorite dumb little detail. Like, if you jump right at the touchdown line, the celebration animation triggers late, and you either run into the pole or you stumble over the point sign. It's the kind of moment that would be annoying in some games. But here it just adds to the personality, because again, it's physics comedy, not a joke someone wrote, just the system being the system. And this is also where I connected to Red Dead. Red Dead Redemption had those iconic wavy reactions, and even with Red Dead Redemption 2 being a much newer game, it's interesting how much the feel can change just by shifting the physics behavior. I actually installed a mod that brings back more of that older style Euphoria engine and suddenly characters feel heavier again. Less perfect animation, more human mess. Although it's still really good in Red Dead Redemption 2, but there's mods that give that more classic feel of GTA 4 or Red Dead Redemption 1. And then there's the one game I think might be the peak of that entire era's ambition. Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. I remember watching the making of videos back then and thinking, this is insane. It felt like they were trying to combine multiple technologies to make the world react. Not just enemies, but materials, objects, everything. And I genuinely think that deserves its own full episode. If you want that next, a deep dive into why Force Unleashed felt so special and what exactly they were trying to achieve, let me know in the comments, because I've wanted to talk about that game probably for an even longer time. Backbreaker isn't just a football game to me. It's a reminder of a moment in gaming where developers trusted physics to create stories instead of scripting them. It wasn't always clean, it wasn't always fair, but it was alive. And that's why it still fascinates me today. Because every time I press start, I don't know what's going to happen next. If you enjoyed this kind of deep dive and you want more thoughtful revisits like this, consider subscribing. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and it tells me these kinds of videos are worth making. There's a lot more from this era I'd love to explore. Thank you.